Good afternoon, everyone. It is time for another Wednesdays Live with LCSO. How you doing, Jay?
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Been a busy week for you?
Just a little.
Just a little. Just a little. Well, we are joined here with one of our members of Youth Services, Sergeant Torrance Henderson. I apologize. Thanks for being here with us today.
Glad to be here.
Well, we are here to talk about a very serious subject matter today.
Absolutely.
This is something that parents really need to pay attention to in the society that we live in today. We're, of course, on Facebook Live, Instagram Live, and our teens and our community are very aware of all of these different tools.
Yeah. So, social media, and obviously with being with Youth Services, you deal with a lot. You and I worked in violent crimes together. We dealt with a lot in there. Sexting. Sexting and social media and using those platforms to send sexually explicit messages has become a major, major issue. Talk to us a little bit about kind of what you see.
Lately, we've been seeing a lot of cases at different schools in Leon County with teens sending each other nude photos and nude videos, and among other things. So, along with that, by law, we're required to seize cell phones.
Right. And we want to talk about this because there might be some parents out there thinking, no, not my child, or not anyone affiliated with my child. We want to show some stats because this is a real issue, not just in our community, but nationwide. So taking a look at some of the stats, let's take a look. Melissa's going to pop some of those up for us. So the first one we're going to look at here, nearly 4 out of every 100 teens have sent a sext. So that's some type of sexually explicit message, be it a video, a text message, or even photographs.
Yeah, 4 out of 10, so 40%. 40% of teens. And on top of that, so sexting is actually going to be defined by the U.S. court system, and I have to read this because there's no way I could remember this already, as an act of sending sexually explicit materials through mobile phones, and those messages may be text, photo, or video.
Right. So this is definitely a concern for parents out there, even if you don't think your children are engaged in anything like this. And so, as you stated, this is something that we're seeing locally as well. Teens who are sending these sexually explicit messages. And so not only are you all as law enforcement going to confiscate those phones, but I'm sure you get calls from parents who say, hey, I paid $1,000 for that iPhone. When can I get it back?
Never.
Never.
Because those photos are considered child pornography, so you're not going to get them back.
So definitely something for parents to keep in mind out there. And not only, forget about not getting the phone back. There are long-term implications for this, and you can certainly face penalties from the law.
Correct. Most teens that we've dealt with so far have been, as a first offense, they're issued a civil citation and assigned, so many hours of community service.
And so this is something we definitely want teens to get, and you pass it along, you're guilty as well, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, and one of the things that you kind of told us a little bit, and that surprised me, is you'll actually have a group of people or one person that will get in their airdrop. And so what people don't know what airdrop is basically they turn on and everyone turns their phones on. When they turn their phone on, anyone can receive that file. You don't even know who's picking it up at that point in time. So how does that change the game a little bit?
Well, to add to that, most of the time the kids are doing this during lunch. They'll usually send out a group text, say, hey, everybody meet in the lunchroom, and then that's when they'll send the airdrop. And what was your question?
Well, how does that change it, though? I mean, if someone's sending it to a particular person and then that person turns around and airdrops it, how do you see that changing everything?
Dramatically, because initially we want to get the person who initially sent it, but once somebody receives it and they forward it on, we're also going to seize their phone as well. So the best thing to do for the kids that are receiving it is to notify law enforcement.
Well, and the other thing that comes out of that is this. If you send that to an intended person and that person then in turn sends it to someone else, then it sends it to someone else, and then now all of a sudden you have a picture that you wanted to be private to one other person that now there's no telling how many people actually have that and are seeing what you've put into that photograph.
Correct. I mean, like they say, once you put it out there, it's out there.
It is out there.
Yeah.
It lives forever, and even when you're an adult looking for a job, those images still live forever.
Yes.
I want to take a look at a couple more stats. One I found really surprising I found it surprising, but because you all work in this environment long term, you said, no, that's not that shocking, but more than 1 out of every 10 girls ages 13 to 16 have sexted nude or semi-nude photos. So this is something we're even seeing at the middle school level.
Yes. We've had several cases involving juvenile girls and males doing this.
And so this is something that parents really need to be aware of. So you can lose your phone, of course. Sharing this information is illegal, but cyberbullying is another part of this. Tell us about that.
Correct. A lot of these kids send these photos, and I guess it's a way of making fun of the kids, and that in turn leads to a lot of these kids, getting depressed. They're humiliated from the photos or videos or whatever, and a lot of them end up depressed. And we've also had some, to the point they made threats to commit suicide.
Wow.
So yeah.
So they'll threaten to send. I'm going to send this photo to other people,
Correct.
and so yeah, you don't just because you send it to one specific person doesn't mean it ends there.
Correct.
Those photos can be shared all over.
And you mentioned a specific incident at a local middle school where something just like that just happened.
Correct.
Kind of go over that with us a little bit.
Woo. Well, again, it was a group of individuals sent new photos of another individual, and that got sent out. Basically, it was airdropped to a lot of other kids, and the individual affected by it, she got depressed, and she was sending messages that she wanted to harm herself.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. So definitely something parents want to pay attention to here. One more stat we're going to look at. 11% of teens admit that they've sent pictures to strangers, people they don't even know. Because you think, okay, well, these are boyfriend, girlfriend situations or whatever, but even strangers, which is very dangerous.
Very.
Yeah.
And to add to the cyberbullying, a lot of that, there's a statute for cyber stalking, which you can be arrested for. And we have used that.
So, Torrance, what are you guys doing in the schools to help educate kids?
Well, all of our SRDs, we have a lesson plan that has been taught to all the students at schools. So this is mainly to make parents more aware of it because the kids know about it.
So right now you're doing presentations in all of the schools, interacting with them, but we want parents to know to look out. And there's some tips we want to tell parents, some things they can do.
Absolutely. One of the biggest things, and we've talked about this numerous times, is you have to be involved in what your kids are doing. If they have social media accounts, monitor what they're doing. Have their passwords that you can go and check and see what's being sent. And understand how that social media platform works. Because if you're sending a message on Instagram or you're sending a message on Facebook, it's a lot different than sending something on Snapchat, which is actually designed to go away.
Right. But can be kept.
It can be kept up to 24 hours. So there's a setting you can change to be able to keep that. But again, it's going to go through with checking and going behind and making sure that you're involved in what's going on in your kids' lives.
As we were talking about leading up to this segment, we were talking about things that parents can do to help out in the process. One of them is when it's time for your kid to go to bed, they don't need a cell phone, right?
Correct.
So we're seeing where some people are actually taking the phones out of the bedrooms.
Yeah, some parents will actually take the phone and I guess leave it in the living room or put it in their bedroom.
Might be an option out there.
Well, and on that, it keeps you from, that they're not, unless they have another device that you're unaware of, that they're not going to be talking to people. And I mean, I know I worked a case when I was a violent crimes detective where a girl decided to run away. When she ran away, she had a phone that had been given her by somebody else, and she was using that at night to meet up with somebody, and actually was gone for about 2 months before we ended up finding her.
Right.
There's actually features with, I know with Verizon, you can limit the amount of time that they have access to the phone. You can actually set it to, or say you don't want them using it after 9 p.m., you can set it to where 9 p.m. the data's turned off so they can't use it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that might be another option out there. But we just want parents to be aware of what your children are doing because there are long-term implications, there are legal implications, and so this can be very dangerous. There are tracking devices now where your location is being shared, and if you're sending stuff to strangers, it can end up badly.
Correct. I mean, there's lots of sexual predators out there that prey on stuff like this.
And there's so much anonymity on these apps. I mean, you can put a picture of literally anybody to make it seem like it's you. You may think that you're talking with another 15-year-old or a 14-year-old when you may actually be talking with someone that's not. So that's, I mean, for me, the surprising stat for me was the 11% sending it to strangers.
Yeah.
You meet someone through an app. One of the other things that we talked about was if you're going to let your kids on social media, looking at the pictures before they post them so that you know there's no identifying information. There's no addresses in the background. There's nothing that shows where they are or where they can be found for the next little bit. And I think that's important as well because people may be looking, especially if they're already chatting with your kid, to try and find out where they might be so they can meet up with them and try to get them in person.
So scenario, you're a student at a school, you get a text message from someone, you open it, and it is a nude photo of a teenager. What do? You
need to notify a teacher or law enforcement.
Or you could be in trouble.
Correct.
Yes. So
and definitely don't send it forward. Don't send
Correct.
it on and then tell us.
Correct.
right.
Yeah, that's the big thing, you know, and I think one of the biggest complaints we get about when we do these investigations are people don't get their phones back, and that's the parents spend a lot of money on those to get it back. So
Yep. But they're not. The unfortunate side of they're not getting it back because it contains child pornography.
Mm-hmm. And I think people hear that child pornography and they automatically think another image. But teens sexting, teenagers sending nude images, that is child pornography.
Correct.
Yeah. So is there anything else you want to share with our viewers out here just about what they need to know when it comes to this sexting issue?
Please monitor what your kids are doing on those phones.
Mm-hmm. Very important.
Very.
All right. I think that's going to do it for this edition.
it's good to have you back. It's been a little while since you've been on one.
You know, I like to make an appearance every now and then. Well, thank you so much. And if parents out there, if you have any questions or concerns, you can always contact our Youth Services Division. They are wanting to get as much information out, help parents who might, be at their wits' end. And there are lots of resources out there to help teens who are struggling with this. All right. See you later, everybody. Have a good day.